Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw, and I'm here with a familiar face. If you've been watching our videos in the past, it's Alex Sharp, who's president and CEO of Signature Travel Network. Now, Signature just had its very first virtual conference earlier this week. Or actually, if you're looking at this now, it's last week. And we're going to talk to him about that, but also get an update on what Signature is doing for its members. And you're going to find out about all that and more on Insider Travel Report. Now, first of all, Alex, how are you and where are you? I think you're in the same place than we talked with you last time, a few months back, right?
What do you mean? I'm in Bangkok. Can't you see the photo behind me?
Of course, yes. Yeah, you're traveling the world. I tell you, we're all going to get very jealous, but it looks great, the backdrop. Everything good with you and the family?
Everything is really good. You know, I got rid of the COVID goatee since our last one.
I kind of like that. It was evil Alex and good Alex. You know, like Tiger Woods.
My alter ego, right? Exactly. and we did have a nice family trip to Montana. So you know, we're rested and rejuvenated and ready to go again.
Well, let's talk about sort of the big news over the past week. Let's talk about the Signature virtual connections, which actually began, I believe, on August 18. And I keep saying it's over. No, it's actually still ongoing because I think you have events scheduled through December. What kind of virtual event is this, and why did you design it this way?
Sure. So it's a combination of things. Is the way we created it. It's a series of educational type programs like what you were on the 18th, and Ignacio will teach a number of these things every couple of weeks throughout.
That's Ignacio Mazza, who actually, as we speak, I'm about ready to get on a call with him because he's always fascinating talking about destinations and hotels. He's like this. It's your personal world traveler, and you can explore everything with them. And he's got a following. It's kind of a cult. I'm a little worried about that, but that's another story. But anyway, so you're doing all these things, and then you're going to have a schedule of different events and seminars that is really
right. So there'll be Zoom meetings that'll connect partners with our advisors. We'll do some of our own Zoom meetings about, it's kind of member connections, but talking about Signature technology and that kind of stuff. There's some consumer marketing. And I think one of the really cool components are these virtual consumer nights. So we'll take destinations kind of a chunk at a time and really train hard on that, starting with Ignacio's program, going through the partner Zoom meetings, and then finishing with a consumer night. And it's a departure, right? I mean, look, there's no playbook for COVID. And so, everyone's making decisions that they think are right for their membership. And so we made the decision to do it this way versus a more of a traditional, if there is such a thing, traditional virtual conference with 2 or 3 days back to back of meetings and content. And we did it for the reason of, look, we know that our members have had to, have layoffs and furloughs and those types of things. We know that the staff that's there is crazy busy, right? Because if they're not, then there probably should have been more layoffs at this point, right? Because we don't have, members don't have the money to have extra staff. And so we didn't want people, even our supplier partners who are in the same world, right? We didn't want them to have to commit to multiple back-to-back days. And so we wanted to spread it out. But I think even more importantly is, as we figured out, right, a day is a week is a month is a year in COVID terms. And anything we did now would probably be outdated later during this recovery. So being able to spread it out over 4 or 5 months will give us the opportunity to give it to folks in bite-sized pieces, but also make sure that it adapts as we move forward and we get them current information, as of October, as of November, and so on. So that's really the plan.
I think you referred to it in your opening address during the session as kind of part of your overall strategic recovery plan for members for 2020, right?
Absolutely. It's the umbrella, I think, that will deliver, that information and I think most importantly, right, it's not about what we can provide. It's about how members and partners connect, because those best practices are really the best medicine for this.
Yeah. Well, no, it really is a start of something. And the next question I was going to ask you was how you're working overall, but this is exactly how you are working with your travel agency members and, of course, your preferred partners, because it's not just the travel agencies, it's the people that you sell. And that's key if we're going to recover from this, right?
Yeah, it's from a member perspective, it started with just pure survival skills, right? How do we walk them through PPP and EIDL, and hopefully another round of some sort of government subsidy would be great. They had to rethink their businesses, their leases, their advisor compensation fees, all those things, right? But then as we get into recovery, and this is more exciting. It's still unknown, but it's more exciting, right? We're working on, how do they, really utilize and apply those future travel credits? How do we advance the notion of, accelerating the commission pipeline, these virtual consumer nights? How do we start to inspire the customers, inform the customers, and ultimately book the customers? But, as I said before, it's truly about member interaction and supplier member interaction and sharing best practices, because without that, we're just this industry can't make it through. It's a time to come together, not a time to compete and with each other. It's a time that we've got to band together and figure out what the future looks like.
Well, actually, in that light, I mean, during your talk also at the opening of this Virtual Connections event, you mentioned sort of a new bonus and early commission programs that you've been able to secure or that have been offered by a number of your preferred suppliers. How do these programs work, and are you trying to get other preferred partners, this is no surprise, to do the same, right?
Yeah, again, there's no playbook, right? So some partners have come to us. Some of them had programs, in place previously where they would just potentially just pay commissions a bit earlier, maybe pay it with final payment or something like that. So some of the brands out there have always done that, and that's appreciated, no doubt. But now it's a critical component. But I would say there's really two different ways that suppliers are approaching this. So one is kind of pay commission as you go, right? You pay us a deposit, we pay you commission on the deposit. You pay an air add-on, we pay you commission on that, and so forth. And meaning that you get your final commission after final payment, right? So everything's a bit accelerated there. And that's a great way to go if people can do it. Another way is particularly for those brands that require or incentivize customers to make final payment earlier. What our advisors have said is, hey, you have our money for a long time, our customers' money, why aren't you paying out commission? But look, there's a couple of things. One is, in some cases, we're talking to suppliers about doing this. If they won't do it across the board for all advisors, which would be our preference for them just to have a program that benefits everyone. But if they're not able to do that, we're willing to do some sort of financial guarantee to cover them on recalled commissions from a signature perspective. Of course, the advisor is responsible. Ultimately, the agency is responsible. But we've said, hey, they're shareholders in our company. If someone were to default, we will make it right. And so by making that offer, I think we're going to get a few more folks that will come around as they have to convince their controllers and their finance people, right, that, hey, this will help us drive sales. It'll help us drive more deposits and final payments and all those things that we need from a cash perspective to survive and move through this, but also mitigate some of our risks. So I think that's an important piece to this. And also, how do agency owners manage this? I mean, they have to get their arms around it. If you're a host agency, you can't be just paying out world cruise commissions, a year in advance or 6 months in advance. You have to be thoughtful about how you're doing it. But in my mind, I mean, certainly advisors are critical to this, but our shareholders are the owners of the agencies. So when I think about it, how they're the ones footing the bills, the rent and the overhead and everything else. How do we make sure that they have the funding to do that? And then their customers are their advisors in many ways, right? So then they'll figure out, how do I craft a program that makes sense, that mitigates risk for me, but gets money in our advisors' hands so that we can hire people back sooner and really start to, steepen this recovery curve for all of us. So there's a lot of moving parts. And
no, it sounds like, but it sounds like at least discussions are ongoing about different solutions to get money into travel agencies' hands a lot quicker. I mean, it started, I remember when all the cruise lines started their future cruise credits, and some of them said, okay, keep the commission. And, you know, some of them did, some of them didn't. And that was the beginning of it. But now we're seeing a lot of different movement. And actually, I think in the end, and I think I mentioned this to you the other day, it may result in a very different commission system when we get out of this.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think, you know, people are looking for competitive advantages. Our opening was great from the standpoint of it's instigated a number of discussions with partners saying, how do I play? Help me understand it. What are my risks? What could we do together? And that's all we want. Every partner's different. Their position is different. You know, of course, everyone needs bookings. Everyone wants cash in-house, but their priorities and their abilities to kind of manage something like this are different from partner to partner. So we're going to have to manage it individually and really work with each one of them individually to craft something that makes sense for everyone.
No, that's you know, as we all said, that this has been a horrible, worst crisis that's ever hit the business and the world for that matter. But on the other hand, there's some innovative solutions that are coming out of it that I think will stick with us well into the next decade, we hope. Let me ask you too about how many agency members and locations do you have overall, and how many specifically in the U.S. and Canada? And I guess the reason I'm asking this because, you know, we're all worried about, you know, we hear from ASTA that if people don't get the government assistance relief in the next 6 months, about 71% of agency locations will go out of business. Have you seen any attrition in your membership because of the pandemic? And if not, why not?
Yeah, so we're a little bit different than many of the others. 207 U.S. and Canadian, you know, shareholders in our company. We have about 500 locations, just shy of 500 locations, and then we have about 90 members internationally that are affiliates with us that use different parts of our programs. But when you look at the U.S. and Canada ones, and not that the other folks aren't suffering through the same pandemic and issues, but when you look at our shareholders here, we've had 4 that have merged or sold. And thankfully to other signature agencies. And, you know, some of those were probably out of necessity and others were out of opportunity, right, through this to kind of combine and create a bigger entity. And then, but what's exciting for us is 8 agencies have been purchased by our members, non-signature agencies that have been purchased by our members. And then 5 new ones have joined just in the last, you know, 40 days or so. And there's more in the pipeline, there's more interest. So, you know, will we have attrition? Yes, absolutely. I mean, these are incredibly tough times. I think about it this way, though. Our average agency it has to get over a higher hurdle to get in, right? Average production for us, because we're cooperative and the way we're set up, is higher than all the other consortia. Doesn't make it better, it just makes it different, right? It works for us to have a higher threshold. So I think by default we have, you know, incredible business people that are running real businesses. But that said, many of them are brick and mortar, and the weight of those expenses over time are far heavier than someone who's home-based, right? It might be a smaller producer, but is home-based and doesn't have the same infrastructure costs. So there's going to be attrition. For us, you know, our commitment to our members is, look, we're gonna do everything we can to make sure our attrition is the lowest in the industry. And frankly, it should be. But it's the longer this goes, and especially without a second round of government funding, you know, it could get pretty ugly in this industry, you know, come the last quarter of the year, the last couple of months of the year. There's no business in the world that's set up to go 12 months without income, right? Yeah. And that's why this accelerated commission pipeline is so important, and the support we provide and all those things, right? But, you know, we're rooting for everyone. And, but I do believe with a recovery curve that we're projecting will be strong, right? We got to get to it. But assuming we get to it, you know, I look at it as we could potentially move into recovery with a base of business that's 20 or 25% larger based on 2019 sales, right? Than what we had then. So, because of the new agencies and the interest in Signature. So that, I hope, means, a steeper recovery, right? And a quicker recovery for everyone, which will create more overrides and profits and all those things for the network, which hopefully will carry everyone through and get us out of this sooner than later. And I haven't even been drinking today. I'm just optimistic.
I know. Well, maybe I have a bar right here if you want to have something here, a little snip of something there. Anyway, thought occurred to me, was the numbers that you saw in terms of new agencies joining you, and has that been higher because of this, or is this happen every year?
Yeah, so it's I think the overall number isn't much different than in a regular year, but the interest now is far greater. I mean, the pipeline, we have one salesperson. We don't have a sales organization, right? This is a club for all intents and purposes, and our salesperson is every bit gatekeeper, every bit as much gatekeeper as she is salesperson. But the number of agencies who are, we're actively in discussions with is really just astounding to me, that during these, incredibly challenging times, that they're thinking about changing consortia or looking for additional support or whatever it is. But that said, we have to continue to be selective in who fits the culture and who has the best opportunity, again, to accelerate that recovery curve. It's tough times, and we need to look after our current members, first and foremost. And that's what we're really trying to focus on.
Now, I think you told me in another conversation we had that I heard that a lot of your members, if not all of your members, were successfully able to get this first round of government relief in terms of the Paycheck Protection Program and also maybe some SBA loans. And of course, now we're all eagerly awaiting if it's going to happen, the second round of relief. But of course, Congress has decided to take a summer vacation. I hope they're using a travel advisor.
Yes, I hope so too. We haven't got any of those calls, I don't think.
I don't know. Well, someone said, it's like, I think Zane Kirby said, give all your members of Congress a ticket back to Washington. And I said, well, somebody's got to get that commission on the ticket, but we'll see what happens. But just to confirm that your members did benefit overall.
Yeah, 100% of our members that qualified for PPP got it, and thankfully got it pretty early in the process. Many more have gotten the EIDL loan. But what's incredible to me is the other opportunities that are out there, right? And to me, this has stemmed from member interaction, whether it be these work share programs that people have uncovered in their own states, right? And shared that information, people are taking advantage. We have a member in Utah, they got a $50,000 grant from the state. And the rules around the grant were they had to use $25,000 as customer incentives for their business to drive business, and the other $25,000 was a pure grant. Well, I mean, that's like Christmas, right? I mean, they got $25,000 to create incentives for people to book travel, and then they got $25,000. And the beautiful thing was they got it, they immediately sent it to me, and we sent it to our other members in Utah to take advantage, right? So they're in the application process now. And this wasn't just open to travel, this was open to, all small businesses. So there are opportunities out there, but we have to, have our eyes open and look for them. And thankfully, we have members scattered around that are really, really diligent in digging in and then sharing that information.
No, it's great that you have that ability to share among your members. And I know it is really a club of people that like each other and like to do business with each other and share best practices. You talked a little bit about the beginning about how a recovery looks like, and if it works the way you believe, you might stand to benefit in the end with getting even more business. But talk a little more, if you could, about what does a recovery look like for your organization and for your members and for your preferred partners?
Yeah. I don't have the crystal ball, but
No, you don't? I'm sorry. All right, you don't have to watch everybody. He doesn't have the crystal ball, but we're going to listen to it anyway, because I think you have some great insights. Yeah.
Well, I think there are some absolutes that we can count on, right? So I always start with, what do I know? And then what are those variables? So, I mean, I think I know that the desire to travel, right, has never been stronger, despite people's, some people's fear of the unknown here. But we know you coop people up for several months. They want to get out. They want to travel. We're seeing it on, in the chat rooms. We're seeing it with future bookings and so forth. We know, unfortunately, and you alluded to this, there's going to be fewer agencies and advisors in the post-COVID world. So the selling team is going to be smaller. We know that there's never going to be a time where an advisor is more valued than right now, right? And going through this. I mean, for those that were trying to book through an OTA before and got, flashing lights across the top of the website saying, don't call us because we're too busy for you, or whether, folks were stranded and needed someone to help them get home, or whatever the case may be, right? There's so much information, so much unknown out there. The value of a travel advisor has never been greater, right? And so when you look at that, I have to say that goes then hand in hand with the suppliers will never need us more, right? And we're seeing that in their incredible commitment, many of them, right? In the way they're paying commissions, on cancellations and upfront on future travel credits, and then again when they rebook and that kind of stuff. So when I look at it overall, I see a recovery, and we have to get there, right? But I see a recovery that has, great pent-up demand, a greater need for our advisor services, and fewer of us around to fulfill that work. And so when you break it down, will Signature's revenue be greater than it was, greater in 21 than it was in 2019? Probably not, right? But I think revenue per advisor, right? Particularly because we know that because they value themselves, they're going to charge fees, they're going to sell insurance, they're going to do all those things. So revenue per advisor should be greater in 21 and certainly in 2022 than it was even in 2019, which was a record year. So, I'm not trying to sound like a politician and spin this, but I absolutely believe the future's bright, and we just have to get to the other side. And so we have to do the things in the meantime to survive and then position ourselves so that as we come out of this, and we're starting to, right, from a booking perspective, as we come out of this, we're making the right business decisions. And, God willing, we all get there together. And I think, 21 can be a good year, and 22 can be a brilliant year for everyone. So that's my crystal ball for what it's worth.
Well, boy, I hope your crystal ball is dead on. I think it is actually, but it has been a tough time because they keep moving the goalposts. They keep saying we're gonna be done by the summer. Remember that? And now we're done by the fall, and we'll have cruising by now. It looks like not probably till the end of the year. Although the hopeful signs are they are cruising in Europe, they are cruising in Asia, so it can be done. So we just have to get there. So Alex, we're gonna split this interview up a bit. So we're gonna say thank you for this part of it. We got your view of the new Signature virtual connections as well as your thoughts on your membership, and we're gonna talk specific marketing technology and training for Signature in the next part. So stay tuned for that. Again, Alex, thank you so much for your time, and
thank you, James.
We'll see you on the next one, right?
Okay.